Something much bigger than a car rebuild is unfolding right now, and most people have completely missed it. You probably know the story. Matt Armstrong. A Ferrari 296 GTB. A rebuild that spiraled into something nobody anticipated, and a manufacturer that many believe went out of its way to ensure that car could never drive again. Software locks. Digital kill switches. A battery that the car's own systems refused to recognize. A repair that Ferrari may have made impossible by design. But here is what changes everything. The European Union is about to enforce a law that goes directly at what Ferrari is accused of doing. Not a guideline. Not a proposal. Not a strongly worded recommendation. A binding directive that legally requires manufacturers to play fair with repairs, and it starts applying across EU member states on the 31st of July 2026. If the accusations against Ferrari are accurate, they may be on a direct collision course with it. To understand why this law exists, you have to understand the pattern that made it necessary. Over the past decade, consumers across dozens of industries started waking up to the same uncomfortable reality. The products they had paid for were no longer really theirs to fix. Smartphones came with batteries sealed inside cases engineered to resist opening. Software detected third-party replacement parts and quietly disabled features. Warranties were voided the moment an owner touched the inside of a device they legally owned. Apple fought this battle for years. Samsung too. Then John Deere became the symbol of the entire movement, the moment farmers discovered they could not repair their own tractors in the middle of harvest season without explicit permission from the manufacturer. Not a specialist part. Not a safety-critical system. A tractor, in a field, that the farmer owned outright. The same story kept repeating across washing machines, televisions, medical equipment, electric bikes, and consumer electronics. Company after company selling you something, then quietly retaining control over what happened to it once it left their possession. Independent repair shops were locked out of diagnostic software. Spare parts were funneled exclusively through authorized dealer networks, priced in ways that made independent repair economically absurd. Products were deliberately engineered so that outside repair was difficult, slow, or technically impossible. And buried deep inside purchase agreements were legal clauses quietly stripping owners of their right to service what they had bought. The European Union watched this for years. And eventually, they acted. The EU Right to Repair Directive did not emerge out of nowhere. It was a direct response to an extended pattern of manufacturers pushing the boundaries of post-sale control, and the political will to stop it had been building for a long time. Here is what the European Commission states about the directive's core obligation, and this language matters. Manufacturers of products such as fridges, cars, or smartphones that are subject to reparability requirements in EU law and listed in Annex 2 of the directive will have to repair those products within a reasonable time and for a reasonable price. Take a moment with that. If your product is on the list, you cannot make repairs unreasonably difficult. You cannot make them unreasonably expensive. That is not a suggestion from Brussels. That is a legal obligation. But the EU understood something important when drafting this directive. Manufacturers are creative. Tell them they must offer repairs at a fair price, and some will simply find another way to prevent the repair from happening at all, through hardware design, through software architecture, through contractual language tucked away where most consumers will never look. The directive addresses all of it, directly. Here is the second critical passage from the European Commission. Manufacturers will be prohibited from using contractual clauses, hardware, or software techniques that impede the repair of goods listed in Annex 2, unless justified by legitimate and objective factors. They will also be obliged to provide access to spare parts at reasonable prices and to make available information on their repair services to consumers in an easily accessible manner. 3 obligations. And every single one of them matters for this story. First, manufacturers cannot use contracts, hardware, or software to block repairs. A software lock that prevents a battery from being recognized by a car's own onboard systems, the exact scenario at the center of the Ferrari controversy, could be directly prohibited under this directive. Second, spare parts must be available at reasonable prices, not locked exclusively behind an authorized dealer network. not quoted at figures that make independent repair economically impossible compared to simply buying a replacement vehicle outright. Third, repair information must be easily accessible to consumers, not restricted to internal technicians at official service centers, not hidden behind proprietary systems and dealer logins. Accessible, transparent, available. Now bring the Ferrari situation back into focus. The accusation, and it is worth being precise here, because these are accusations, not settled legal findings, is that Ferrari's own software systems refuse to recognize a rebuilt vehicle as legitimate. That a battery which functioned correctly from a physical and electrical standpoint was blocked from operating by the car's digital architecture. And that access to the software tools and diagnostic systems required to bring that vehicle back to life was restricted in ways that left an independent rebuilder with nowhere to turn. Ferrari's position, to the extent they have addressed it publicly, centers on safety and the protection of proprietary technology. Those are not frivolous arguments. High-performance hybrid systems involve genuinely complex engineering, and there are real safety considerations in a car producing this level of power. Manufacturers do have legitimate reasons to protect certain systems. But the directive draws a very specific line. The word used is legitimate and objective factors. Not brand image. Not exclusivity. Not the protection of authorized dealer revenue. Legitimate. Objective. Technical. And that is the question this law forces into the open. Can Ferrari, or any manufacturer deploying software restrictions on a vehicle someone else owns, demonstrate that those restrictions exist for genuine technical or safety reasons? Or do they exist, at least in part, to protect a business model built on controlling who can touch the car after it leaves the showroom? European law does not care about prestige. It does not care about mystique, exclusivity, or the carefully curated image of what it means to be a Ferrari owner. It cares about whether the person who paid for the vehicle has the legal right to repair it. Ferrari has built something extraordinary over decades. Not just cars, an entire world. The rarity, the history, the relationship between the brand and the owner that runs through authorized dealers and official service centers and manufacturer-controlled networks. That model has worked, commercially and culturally, for a very long time. A Ferrari has never been treated as a product in the conventional sense. It has been treated as an ongoing relationship, and Ferrari has held considerable power over the terms of that relationship. But European consumer law is not designed to accommodate a brand's self-conception. It is designed to protect the person who paid for the object. And on the 31st of July 2026, the terms of that relationship change. Because if the directive applies to the vehicles in question, and the inclusion of cars explicitly in the European Commission's own language makes the intent clear, then the restrictions being described in the Ferrari rebuild story are precisely the kind of restrictions this law was designed to prohibit. Here is why the timing of all of this matters so much. July 2026 is not a distant horizon. Member states are actively in the process of translating this directive into national law. The regulatory environment across Europe is already shifting towards stronger consumer ownership rights and away from manufacturer control over post-sale repair. That shift is happening right now, and the Ferrari controversy is landing directly in the middle of it. This is why the story has traveled far beyond car YouTube, beyond rebuild channels and automotive forums. It is now being referenced in conversations about consumer law, technology policy, and the future of ownership in an era where nearly everything we buy contains software that someone else controls. Software that can be updated, restricted, or quietly altered long after the sale is complete. Every manufacturer that uses software to manage repairs, authorize components, or gate access to diagnostics is watching what happens here. Ferrari did not ask to become a test case, but it has become one. A reference point. A moment where the question of who actually owns a car after the transaction is complete is being asked in public, with real legal and regulatory weight behind it. So here is where this lands. If Ferrari, or any luxury or performance manufacturer, cannot demonstrate that their software-based repair restrictions are rooted in legitimate, objective, technical justification, the EU Right to Repair Directive gives regulators the grounds to call those restrictions exactly what they appear to be, repair blocks. And under this law, repair blocks are prohibited, The business model that controls not just how a car is built, but who can fix it, under what conditions, and whether it is permitted to operate at all, that model is facing a legal challenge it was not designed to anticipate. What happens to exclusivity when the law says ownership means something? What happens to authorized dealer networks when independent repair is a protected right? What happens to software-enforced control when European regulators have the legal authority to call it obstruction? Those are not rhetorical questions. They are the questions sitting at the center of this story, and we are going to find out the answers very soon. If you have been following the Matt Armstrong Ferrari rebuild arc, you already know how far down this goes. If you are new here, go back and start from the beginning, because what started as a rebuild has turned into something much, much larger. This story is not finished yet.